Hey, this is getting to be a habit. My morning walk to the Cross of Games, last day today, but I won't have any internet connection, so I'll post stuff later. Right, today, investors. Okay, so for me, today is going to be like super exciting, the great big show. But I'm mulling about investors because one of my friends was texting me to say they're having trouble landing investors. Now, this person is 100% investor worthy. They've already done 9 projects. I've worked with them for years. They're completely scrupulous. They're fantastic. Scrupulous is the right word, isn't it? Meticulous, that's the word I'm looking for. They're meticulous, they're hardworking, they're decent, you know, fantastic. Oh, I keep photographing gardens for my mum, so I'll have to show her this video on this one. And they're saying that they're having trouble getting people over the line. So I was just sort of mulling over this morning over breakfast of chili omelette, sour cream, Yanks, spicy sauce in a completely packed diner. Amazing. And I think it's numbers. I was reflecting back to when I was fundraising, which I'm not now, by the way. I'm kind of at the stage of paying off my last of my investors and then also paying down mortgages. So I've got houses that are mortgage free now. And I was just texting them to say, hey, I just wonder whether it's numbers. I was probably phoning, and I can't remember exactly, but between 5 and 10 people or talking to, not phoning, because phoning you'll find that 80% of people are on voicemail. So I was talking to between 5 and 10 possible investors every single day. Now, these are people I met at property events. They're people I generally met at property events, or I might have just mentioned that I do property too, and they looked like they were interested. So I was like, hey, should we have a chat sometime? So let's say it was the lowest number, that's 25 conversations a week plus a couple of coffees. If it was the higher number, that's 50 conversations a week plus a couple of coffees. And you want to I never worked with anyone I didn't like. There were a couple of people who turned out to be interesting once they'd gotten into my inner circle. So they got put back out to outside the inner circle. But I certainly didn't ever think, oh, I don't like you, I'm still going to work with you. I only ever work with people who at first, second, third, fourth, fifth go, I was like, yeah, you know what, I think you're great. So it's although this sounds quite manipulative is the wrong word, but quite transactional, it's also a relationship. And for me, it was always about the relationship, even though I knew that there had to be some kind of transactional structure to the relationship. So typically you're going to have to get people into the zone where they trust you and you trust them. And it's as important that you trust them as they trust you, that you see what their behaviour's like, because having a nightmare investor is like the most unfun thing ever. And we've had a small number, but a few, and it's not fun at all. So you have to do a lot of assessing of them, and they quite naturally and quite correctly have to do a lot of assessing of you. It's just developing trust. Now, what we found, that it was between 5 and 9 touch points. So 5 and 9 conversations, coffees, meetings, lunches, going to see properties together, that sort of stuff. So what you're going to have to do is make a shed load of phone calls, between 25 and 50 phone calls a week. About half an hour per phone call. So it's like 12 and a half to 25 hours a week fundraising. And I always say it's a third of raising money, a third of finding deals, third of 30% raising money, 30% finding deals, and then 40% running your business. So it's going to have to be kind of, easily 60-hour week, isn't it really? If in the early days, let's be honest. Or if you want to scale down, if you go slower, then just scale down to that. But for me, I raised £600,000 in 14 weeks, and that was doing probably about 50 phone calls a week. I mean, I was really going for it. 50 phone calls a week, a number of coffees. So I think in the early days, it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't find people with money. You're probably just not making enough phone calls. So go back. If I was on a call with you right now, and you were saying, Suze, I can't find any investors, or I'm not landing them, I'd be like, how many phone calls have you made? And go back and track for the last 8 weeks how many phone calls you've made, and that will probably give you your results. If you've made and talked to 50 potential investors a week for the last 8 weeks, I bet you've got raised money. If you haven't, you probably haven't. Now, give yourself a reasonable target, whether you want to say 25 good conversations a week or 50. I mean, 50, I was, from morning to night, but maybe you want to say 25 good conversations a week. Run it for 8 weeks. If you still haven't raised any money, then we need to look at the quality of the conversations. But in the first 8 weeks, I bet you it's numbers. I hope that's helpful. Bye.